very pleasant good morning from coast to coast, Las Vegas to Boston to Port St. Lucie, Florida. Welcome to Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. Princeton Research. Boy, what a wealth of information. That newsletter. And, of course, Charles Moskowitz's texting service, which has just been an absolute joy over the last couple of years. And let's head to Las Vegas and Beantown. And, hey, good morning, guys.
Well, good morning. It looks like the Ukraine crisis is wearing off a little bit.
Yeah.
The market
has
forgotten about that and has had a two-day rally yesterday and is continuing today. We just had consumer confidence report, which wasn't bad. It was 82.3 for April, and March's was expected at 82.3, but came in at 83.9, a little more ebullient. 82.3 was just a little lower than expected, of like 83.5, but still decent.
Mm-hmm. What about the you had mentioned about the Ukrainian crisis? I know that's when the oil prices just kind of shot up. They're still at 101.90 as of just a few minutes ago, up $1.30. How high is the oil going to go?
Well, not because of the Ukraine crisis. It's just that the cost of drilling is not getting any cheaper. It takes high-quality people to be able to operate in the fields. There's a lot of talent required. And in Texas, as well as other places in America, they're finding new zones all the time, lower and lower. As they go lower and lower, the cost goes up, and there's new zones.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear that. Was it 2 weeks ago, I guess, when all of a sudden we were discussing a brand new area.
Yes, now there's the Edwards zone, which is below the Buddha zone, which is below the Eagleford, which is below the Austin Chalk. So it used to be Austin Chalk, then Eagleford 3 years ago,
then
Buddha, and now the Edwards.
Wow, that's amazing.
And who knows, there will be more found even below that.
Yeah, as
you go 2 miles, 3 miles below the earth, the cost goes up.
Yeah, there you go.
And therein lies the issue.
Hey, Charles.
As the price goes up,
yep,
and remains reasonably stable, these companies are willing to invest more.
Okay.
I mean, with crude at 109.7, where is it? Yeah. If it sits here, if it isn't a burst like we had a couple of years ago where it ran up to 147.
Yep.
Like there was no tomorrow. If it would have stabilized up there, we'd be drilling to the center of the earth. It really wouldn't matter as long as these guys can, are willing to spend the money because they expect to get a decent return. They just keep going.
It was...
Hey, Charles, Mike, Greg, this is Dave Rogers.
Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, speaking of that, I just saw a article the other day regarding the Eagleford zone actually extends down into Mexico, and there's a push now to go down to Mexico and start drilling down there, but of course you have all the lawless frontier problems that you have in Mexico right now, and the people are hesitant to bring large amounts of equipment and personnel down there, so there's a trade-off there. Do you go down to Mexico and explore the Eagleford, or do you put up with the problems down there? It's an interesting article, an interesting situation.
Well, now, wait a minute. Let's instability and Mexico together, they've had that for decades, I mean, that's
lawless frontier.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate Wild West.
Well, yes and no. I mean, look at the amount of instability in the Far East, where we've been drilling and supporting for, decades.
Right.
It all comes down to the same thing. It's profitable to do it. They do it. I mean, that's what. That's the difference between the private sector handling issues and problems and the government handling issues and problems. These are things you can't regulate away. These are things that, again, if a cost-benefit analysis is run and it makes sense, then the private sector does it.
Yeah, well, Charles, it's funny you mention that. You probably, I'm sure you and Mike and Dave happened to catch this on Bloomberg. The fact that Pfizer and AstraZeneca, the Pfizer is the latest to move its legal address outside the United States because of taxes. And so all of a sudden, apparently the Obama administration wanted to put this, I can't even believe. There's a company called Omnicom, which most people would obviously never have heard of. It's an advertising agency, and, they handle several large accounts. But like Chiquita Bananas, or actually it's Chiquita Brands because they're into a lot more stuff. Well, the Obama administration apparently wanted to put a cap on what they do over a decade. And, I've never heard of that. So it's like they're out of here. Very strange. It's the article's in Bloomberg if folks want to go see it. And it says Pfizer bids for UK address on U.S. tax revamp.
Well, because the company that they're buying is not a great company.
Yeah.
But it does benefit them a couple of $100 million a year.
Yeah.
Saved taxes, which, means they can put a little bit more money into R&D. Again, the private sector knows how to handle it.
Now, Charles, I'm asking you a personal question here.
Okay.
How many billion, with a B, can you afford to lose today?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I go by the if you die owing $1 million, you've lived the life of a millionaire.
Uh-huh.
So I'm figuring I could lose an inordinate amount of billions of dollars if I just had access to it.
Well, how about this energy company? Again, this is out of Bloomberg. Energy Future, I'm not even sure what it is. Futures Holding Company. Anyway, Warren Buffett claims it is the worst investment he ever made. He's lost over $2 billion on this deal. And apparently they're going to file for bankruptcy, so he's toast. But can you imagine? I can't.
Could be worse. How about the guy from Brazil who said he was going to be the richest man in the world and had all of that offshore oil drilling and and his personal net worth went from what, 20 billion to under $1 billion in 11 months?
Wow. Well, whatever this Energy Future Holdings...
It can be done.
Oh, yeah. Whatever this Energy Future Holdings thing is, it could be the worst, the biggest downfall since the lovely oil disaster of 2008. So, I mean, God, I can't even think of the name of that company, but the big oil company. Anyway, whatever. And apparently this is a gas bet that just didn't quite make it, But hey, I guess that's what investing's all about. Nothing's guaranteed, right?
Right.
There's another great example of public sector versus government regulation and the oil industry, and that's offshore Cuba. There's a huge push by international companies to start drilling offshore Cuba, and American companies want to get in on it, but they're bound by the regulations of the government. So
exactly.
That's another example of what Charles was saying.
Yeah, and that's only been in effect for 50 years. Wait. 50? Yeah, 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
The, quote, embargo.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's amazing when you think about the whole pipeline thing. Just boggles my mind. I mean, it's like so much has been made of that crazy pipeline, but you have to understand. Having a lot of friends up in especially Alberta. and realizing, and one of these guys happens to own the Calgary hockey team, and he was just saying, hey, look, you know, if the United States wants to continue dilly-dallying, we'll build it out here, and we'll just send the oil to China, period.
Yep.
And this is coming from an Alberta oil man, and they'll do it. Believe me, they will do it.
Well, you know, the way that the weather has been in Middle America for the last couple of weeks,
yeah,
I'm guessing a pipeline would be about all that's left standing there if they build it.
yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The
And
devastation in some of these places is phenomenal.
yeah, and it's not going to get any better. I mean, you look at some of the weather predictions over the next 5 years, and yeah, whatever this weather cycle that we're in, yeah, it's a doozy. And you know, although our hurricane season was announced, that, you know, we're not going to have all that many major hurricanes, quote unquote.
Ooh, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, you know, as the folks in Miami can tell you, where we had a very light hurricane season, and all of a sudden Andrew hit. It only takes one. You know,
right.
It only takes one, and as you guys found out with Sandy. You know, it's and what
just takes one slow-moving storm.
Yes. Well, and you know what really amazes me, and you know, I'm a watcher of license plates. I mean, you know, I have been shocked at the number of Northeast and Quebec plates down here this winter, and a lot of them are still here, and we have heard stories from a couple of developers down here that apparently New Jersey, this is as you guys talk about government intervention, dear old Chris Christie's government, if he can't stall traffic on the bridge, is making apparently the people who are going to rebuild on the beach build above a pier. Well, that will increase the rebuild by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a lot of people are just saying, heck with it, we're moving to Florida.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I think, is that some of those mid-states that are so popular because of cost of living and, you know, the fact that people who have roots up here, like I have grandkids up here, I certainly would have considered, you know, the Carolinas before Florida, just on the, you know, the distance here. You know, now that there's been snow at Myrtle Beach,
yes,
and what do you call it, and tornadoes, you know, further north than we'd ever seen them in size. You know, I think that there are a lot of people who are skipping that, you know, belt across the U.S., or at least the east of the Mississippi U.S., and coming further south.
Yeah.
Come to Las Vegas, Charles.
Yeah.
There you go.
We have great weather here.
I know.
Well, you've got dust storms, though, Mike. I mean, I remember those dust devils out there.
I haven't seen any.
Could I tell you something, Greg? You don't have to shovel dust.
That's true. Well, in some cases,
that's a good point.
And dust doesn't damage your basement and foundation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I just can't even comprehend. I remember a few months ago when you were talking about the cost of heating oil up in the Northeast. I can't even comprehend that. You know, it's all of a sudden, you know, your budget shooting up $900 a month just to heat your house. I mean, that is unbelievable. That's a loan payment. You know, that's amazing. That is just absolutely amazing. What else is going on?
Yeah, between
Well, hey, we've got, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got some research.
And,
Yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, we've issued 2 research reports from Princeton Research. In disclosure, Princeton Research was paid to issue the reports, but there's a new research report out on a Las Vegas company, Southern ITS International, stock symbol SITS. If you go to the website, you can see the Tech Stock News post, which has a link to the research report. They were on our show a while back. And also, last month we issued a research report on Synergy Limited. It's an interesting coal mining stock out of West Virginia. They've got the whole operation. They got the mine. They got the processing plant. They're hooked up to the railroad track. So it's an interesting company, Synergy Limited and Southern International ITS. Both those research reports are available on the Princeton Research site. If you go to the home page, you'll see the Synergy logo and the Southern ITS post. So once again, we have 2 new research reports out on Southern ITS International, that's stock symbol SITS, and Synergy Limited, XRG, is their stock symbol.
And the Synergy Limited got the President Obama stamp of approval? Oh, I'm just kidding. Sorry. I couldn't resist. Now, tell us about the coal thing. Interests me there.
Synergy is interesting because they're in a sector which is a high-priced coal sector, and that's the what they call meth coal, or it's basically premium coal. They get upwards to $300 an ounce, $300 a ton, as opposed to the going rate of $50 a ton for the coal.
Wow.
I think Mike knows a little more about that. He did the report. Mike?
Yeah. This XRGYF is actually XRG on the Canadian exchange.
Okay.
Toronto exchange. And trading out of Canada, and it's a great buy on dips into the mid-30s for rallies into the mid-50s. There's 20 to 30 cents on the rallies. And SITS has been trading at half a cent and 3/4 of a cent for several months, and now is a penny and a half, trading up to penny and a half to penny, almost 2 pennies. So that's not bad. You can make money in a lot of these micro cap stocks, and don't have the same volatility risk that you have with the S&P and the big stocks. The big stocks are now in the middle of huge volatility.
Right. Mike, what is this real high caliber type of coal used for?
Yeah, it's called it's metallurgical coal. That's where the meth comes from. It's used for it's a hotter burning variety of coal than your average thermal coal. So rather than being used for heating, it's used for spinning turbines at power plants or steel processing plants or forging specialty metals. It's used wherever you need a higher burning fuel.
Interesting. Wow.
And just so that you want to know about the exposure that it's getting, the most recent issue of Wired magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Which is more kind of science and tech related.
Yes, it is.
Has a big cover story now called Coal. It's dangerous, it's dirty, and it's the future of energy. What this article talks about is the fact that the solar and everything else will not be ready in any kind of realistic time. And what they're doing now is there are technologies that are being used with coal. I always laugh when I hear clean coal technology.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of clean coal out there. But what they're doing now is, in order to deal with coal, they're dealing with mechanical systems that actually turn the waste and the byproducts, all of the CO2, and it's being stored underground.
Okay.
So what they're doing is, it's not clean coal per se, but what it is a way of processing all of the bad stuff out of the coal as it's burned and reusing it, using it for turbines and stuff the same way you use steam for turbines and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So, but there's a lot of focus on coal is kind of the point.
Yeah, no, I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Wired magazine, like you said, is mostly a technical magazine, would be covering coal. So that's really
Right.
really interesting.
Well, it's a new
did they talk
technology.
about the
Yeah, new technology.
CO2
talk about the new clean burning? Was that in that article? The clean burning coal advancements?
Yeah.
No, a different article. Okay.
Nope, it's all here.
Wow,
Yeah, wow.
that's amazing. Yeah.
And I'm sure you can get it online.
Oh yeah, Wired is yeah. Actually,
Which is good for people who are old and feeble like me, who can't read the small print. Wired magazine is always
yeah.
it's printed just a little bit too small for me to read clearly. It's one of the few things that I read online all the time because it's so much easier.
By the way, you guys talk a little bit about government. Let's hear it for my old gang out in California, who has now chased
Your buddy
out.
from the Clippers?
I wasn't going to touch Donald. I was not going to touch that Donald Sterling story at all. But I will say this. Having come from L.A., having worked with the Clippers, not only in L.A., but in San Diego before they moved to L.A., and having met that wonderful, magnanimous individual, Donald Sterling, I don't understand why this is a news story. Any of us who've known Donald for any length of time, which could be longer than 10 minutes, realizes that this guy is just an absolute scumbag.
Oh, yeah.
Pardon the expression, folks.
Can you say that on radio?
Well, I don't know. I just did. But, I mean, the trail of lawsuits go all the way back to before the time that he owned the team. And so I just can't believe this whole thing. But anyway.
He's Mark shot and drag.
Actually, that's it. Yes. I think that's what a lot of people are comparing him to. But the state of California, my old buddy Jerry Brown, has chased Toyota out of the state. They're moving to Texas, and you're only talking 5,000 jobs, and this is a sales force and marketing and all the other stuff. But they have been in this area of Southern California for 50 years, and they are one of the first to build there. Now, Honda and Kia and what's the other one? Is it Mazda, I guess, that are all in that Tustin, Orange County area. They're all looking very closely at Toyota and just building like a hub in Plano, Texas, which is where Toyota's moving, and just build a huge auto hub there, which, that would be devastating to Southern California. Again, I don't know how many jobs you're talking about. You're not talking hundreds of thousands of jobs, but still, a job's a job, and you've got 5,000 people who are going to have to move to Texas now. It's amazing.
And there's plenty of room in Plano.
There is plenty of room in Plano. You are correct.
And frankly, it's very convenient.
Well, and it's very interesting. I turning the clock back to 1996, when we went up on the internet, and Mark Cuban was, had his little company called AudioNet. And I remember when they were purchased by Yahoo, and Mark's sidekick, I think it was Patterson, I think that was his name, went out to scout in San Jose. And of course, Bill Chippis, I was well aware. I mean, he was raised out there and realized all the property disadvantages, I guess, if you will, of Northern California. And Charles, you lived in San Francisco, so you're well aware of the property values there. Well, I mean, there are a lot of people at AudioNet working for Mark Cuban that, they had like 5-acre ranchettes someplace out around, outskirts of Dallas. And 150, 200,000, and you couldn't even get a garage for that in San Jose.
Right.
So there are a lot of people, when Yahoo took over AudioNet, that never made the move because they just simply couldn't afford it. They just moved on to something else.
And Mark Cuban, in his infinite wisdom, didn't bother. just sold the stock.
He just sold us. Yeah, he was one of the bright ones. It's like, okay, everybody was on Yahoo's wagon, and he goes, nah, not me. I'll take the money and invest it and do it myself. So
dedicated bankers born to go the extra mile.
But, by the way, it's
such a big help.
That's what I like to do.
So you can choose a bank where helping people.
But
comes
I
first.
don't know.
Choose
It's like
so you can.
you start looking around and you think.
Some breaking news.
How many ways do you want to disadvantage yourself?
Yeah, and like Mike says, come to Las Vegas, and the one thing I'll say, and having dealt with Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau a lot, man, those people just have their doors open and say, come on out, and we'll work out the technical details later. And I mean, Mike, you used to have a Mayor Goodman. And
Yeah.
I dealt with him a lot because he was also involved in the University of Nevada, Las Vegas when I was doing the play-by-play there. And that guy was totally nuts. I mean, if you had a business, he'd figure out a way to get it there. And,
Great mayor.
Oh, he was
And now
awesome.
Mrs. Goodman's the mayor, his wife.
Really? Oh.
So we have great mayors.
Well, but see, that's why you have grown so much. It's like there is a welcoming political atmosphere there, which there is not in a lot of other communities. And which again is why we're all of a sudden having a growth spurt here. We have finally started coming out of the recession doldrums here in this area of Florida. A lot of California builders are coming in here again. There's now talk about that large shopping mall similar to Mall of America coming back to one area here, which would mean thousands of jobs. So yeah, I mean it's starting to come back again. It really is. But you are right. It's just the fact that governments that understand just to get out of the way rather than regulate you to death. Those are the ones that are making it. And there's a town just north of you too, Mike, Salt Lake City, that's doing the same thing. And, very quietly becoming the next Silicon Valley. You guys and Salt Lake City are in a race to see which one of you guys pirates the companies from Silicon Valley. I'm waiting to see that. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what shakes out. And how much growth is going to be in the Sun Belt. Yeah, so we just have to get Charles down here. I know your grandkids are up there. That's the problem. We would love to be with ours too, which are up in Spokane now.
By the way, I just resent Ghazi Hajj, our guest, the information. He just sent me a text that said he was having trouble dialing in to the conference line, so I resent it. So we should hear from him any moment.
Okay. If not,
So yeah, as we used to call him back the last time he ran the state, just a scant 40 years ago, Governor Moonbeam.
Yes.
That was back when the first lady of the state was Linda Ronstadt.
Yes, believe me, I covered him during that era. So yes,
oh yeah,
I remember those days very well. Oh yeah, sure. And Linda's a great gal too. But that's a whole different story. I knew her in Tucson. Yeah, before Governor Moonbeam.
Let's welcome Ghazi.
Hey, this is Ghazi. How you doing?
Hey, Ghazi.
Okay, Ghazi.
Okay, we need, since we're involved in this story about Linda Ronstadt, do you have any connections with Linda Ronstadt?